Have you ever stood in a quiet house, perhaps in the late afternoon when the sun casts long shadows across the floor, and felt it? Not a noise, but a presence. A silence so profound it seems to have a weight of its own. For many who have journeyed past their 80th year, this quiet is a new companion. The boisterous energy of midlife has softened. The daily clamor of career and child-rearing has faded into a gentle hum of memory. Your thoughts, once a roaring committee debating the future, have become more like a quiet conversation with the self. But in this newfound stillness, another sound often begins to rise, not in the ears, but in the heart. It is the sound of fear, and it doesn't scream, it whispers. This is not the kind of fear that makes you jump at a sudden noise or gasp in a moment of panic. It's a more insidious, creeping variety, one that slips into the mind during the unguarded moments, when the television is off, when the last visitor has departed, when the only thing left to do is think. It's a fear that asks quiet, persistent questions. What if I can't handle what's coming next? What if the person I've been my whole life is slowly slipping away? At first, you might dismiss it, attributing it to a moment of melancholy or telling yourself, I'm just being overly dramatic. But the feeling returns, a subtle but constant pressure, shaping decisions, coloring interactions, and, if left unaddressed, quietly shrinking the boundaries of your world until it becomes a room with the curtains drawn. This article is a hand extended to those of us in our 80s or walking thoughtfully toward that milestone. It is for every person who has lived a long, rich life, who has worked hard, loved deeply, and earned a measure of peace, only to find this uninvited guest of anxiety taking a seat at their table. These fears are not irrational pathologies. On the contrary, they are profound signals of deep self-awareness, the logical consequence of a mind that understands the preciousness of time and the fragility of the human condition. They are the heart's attempt to protect what little time and dignity we have left. The great unspoken truth is that after 80, fear often wears the mask of silence and stoicism. It disguises itself as quiet acceptance, as not wanting to be a bother, as simply being tired. But beneath that calm surface, it is a powerful current, capable of pulling one away from connection, joy, and agency. In this in-depth exploration, we will bring these silent anxieties into the light. We will name the 5 of the most pervasive fears that emerge in this chapter of life. More importantly, we will analyze them not as insurmountable problems, but as unspoken calls for change, invitations to engage more deeply with ourselves and with the people we love. Whether you are living these years now or caring for someone who is, this message is a bridge. Let us walk across it together. If this introduction resonates with the quiet stirrings in your own heart or in the life of someone you care about, please let us know in the comments section below. Your shared recognition creates a community, reminding us all that we are not alone in these complex feelings. It is a powerful first step in breaking the silence. 1. The fear of becoming a burden, the weight of perceived obligation. Among the constellation of late-life anxieties, perhaps none shines with a more sorrowful light than the fear of becoming a burden. It is a quiet, aching thought that rarely announces itself directly. Instead, it manifests as a series of small, almost imperceptible hesitations. It's the pause before asking your daughter to help with a heavy bag of groceries, the decision to struggle with a tight jar lid in silence rather than call for your son, the choice to downplay a dizzy spell to avoid causing worry. Each of these small silences is a stitch, and over time, they weave a tapestry of isolation. You stop asking. You insist on doing it yourself, sometimes to the point of risk. You learn to wear a mask of placid self-sufficiency, all while the internal voice of fear grows louder. If I lean on them too much, will they begin to pull away? Will their love curdle into obligation? This fear is far more complex than a simple aversion to physical dependence. It is deeply entangled with our sense of identity and emotional value. Many older adults worry that sharing their authentic struggles, their pain, their loneliness, their anxieties, will bring down the mood, casting a shadow over the lives of their children who, they perceive, already have so much on their plates. So they adopt a policy of relentless positivity. "I'm fine" becomes a mantra, a shield used to protect their loved ones from the perceived weight of their reality. It seems noble, a final act of parental protection, but what it slowly and surely does is rob them of the very things they need most: authentic connection, genuine intimacy, and the tender, reciprocal dance of care. Psychologically, the fear of being a burden is anchored to a perceived loss of value in a society that often equates worth with productivity and independence. For 70 or 80 years, your life was defined by what you gave: raising children, excelling in a career, managing a household, solving problems for others, being the bedrock. To suddenly find oneself on the receiving end of care can feel profoundly uncomfortable, even shameful. It can feel like a demotion. You may unconsciously begin to measure your worth not by the immense love you still have to give and receive, but by the metric of how little you ask for. But this calculus is fundamentally flawed. It is not how real loving relationships function. People do not love you because you are easy or require nothing of them. They love you because you are you. Your history, your humor, your wisdom, your very presence is the gift. To deny them the opportunity to care for you is, in a strange way, to deny them an essential part of the relationship. I once spoke with a man named Harold, a proud 84-year-old retired engineer. He confided in me that he had stopped telling his daughter about his occasional falls. "She gets so worried, her brow furrows up, and I can see the stress in her eyes," he explained. "I don't want to be another headache in her busy life." Over the course of a year, this protective silence created a chasm. His daughter, believing her father was doing splendidly on his own, didn't feel the same urgency to visit or call as frequently. Harold, in turn, interpreted her reduced contact as a sign that she was too busy for him, reinforcing his decision to keep his struggles to himself. The bond between them, once robust and open, began to thin, not from conflict or anger, but from the corrosive effect of an unspoken fear. The great irony is that in a desperate attempt not to burden others, many older adults end up shouldering an unbearable burden themselves. They carry the physical weight of tasks they should not be attempting alone, the emotional weight of unshared sorrow, and the spiritual weight of profound isolation. They miss out on the deeper, more resilient relationships that are forged not in perpetual strength, but in shared vulnerability. If this fear of being a burden lives quietly within you, let this message be a clear and unwavering affirmation. Your existence is not a burden. Your needs are not an imposition. Your stories, your presence, your vulnerability, they are not problems to be solved, but invitations to love. You are a person to be cherished, not a task to be managed. That was our first deep dive into these silent fears. If you found this analysis of the fear of being a burden to be insightful, and if the idea of reframing asking for help as an act of fostering connection resonates with you, please comment with the number 1 below. It lets us know that these ideas are landing and encourages us to continue this vital conversation. 2. The fear of losing control, the quiet erosion of autonomy. After 80 years of navigating the world, making decisions, and steering your own ship, one of the most profoundly unsettling feelings is not physical pain or even loneliness. It is the slow, creeping sense that your hands are being pried from the wheel of your own life. This fear of losing control, of losing autonomy, is a subtle thief. It doesn't arrive with a dramatic confrontation. It seeps in through 100 small moments where decisions are made for you, not with you. It begins with well-intentioned suggestions that feel more like directives. Your children might insist on a new doctor without a deep discussion, or a caregiver might rearrange your kitchen to make it easier, inadvertently erasing your familiar system, the one you've used for 50 years. Perhaps the pharmacist starts directing all questions and explanations to your accompanying son or daughter, speaking about you in the third person as if you were not even there. Bit by bit, choice by choice, your autonomy is chipped away, not always out of malice, but frequently out of a misguided sense of protection that feels, to the person experiencing it, like condescension. Here is the truth that many people, especially younger family members, fail to grasp. Losing control does not feel safe or comforting. It feels humiliating. It can feel like you are being slowly erased from your own life story, your role relegated from protagonist to a passive supporting character. Once you begin to sense this happening, a cascade of other negative emotions follows. Trust in those around you becomes harder to maintain. Confidence in your own judgment begins to wobble. And your fundamental sense of dignity, the bedrock of selfhood, takes a significant hit. Let's return to the story of Harold, the 84-year-old engineer. He shared another story with me that had clearly left a deep scar. "My grandson drives me to the bank now, which is a big help," he began. "But last time we were there, he turned to the teller and said, 'Could you please explain my grandfather's account statement to me? I need to make sure everything is in order.' I just sat there, in the chair they have for customers, feeling like a child being discussed at a parent-teacher conference. That moment stuck with him for weeks. It wasn't about the bank account. He knew his grandson meant well. It was about the symbolism. It was a moment where his competence was publicly questioned and his agency was silently transferred to another. What many caregivers don't see is that control isn't just about the big, life-altering decisions like medical treatments or living arrangements. It is woven into the fabric of daily life through dozens of small choices. What to eat for breakfast, what to wear for the day, when to take a nap, which chair to sit in, what to watch on television. The loss of these seemingly minor freedoms can feel like a death by 1,000 cuts. You are still breathing, still present, but someone else is running the show. This fear often hides behind a facade of compliance. Many older adults, particularly from generations raised to be respectful, accommodating, and not to make trouble, will not push back. They will nod and agree on the outside, while inside a quiet grief takes root. A deep, unvoiced longing to simply say, "Please, let me decide. Let me be me." If you find your own autonomy slipping away, it is essential to act. First, you must reclaim your voice. It can be done gently but firmly. Simple phrases like, "I appreciate your help, but I'd like to make this decision myself," or "Thank you for the suggestion, I'll think about it and let you know what I want to do," can be powerful tools for re-establishing boundaries. Second, make it a point to consciously make choices for yourself every single day, no matter how small. Choosing your own breakfast, selecting your own clothes, deciding on your own daily schedule. These small acts of self-determination are like weights that rebuild your inner strength and reinforce your sense of self. You have spent decades making decisions, guiding families, running businesses, and surviving hardships. That wisdom does not simply vanish at age 80. If anything, it becomes more refined and potent. You have every right to steer your own life until your very last breath. This fear doesn't make you stubborn, it makes you human. And standing up for your right to choose isn't selfish, it's essential. A life without control isn't peace, it is quiet resignation. And you were made for so much more than that. The fear of losing control is so fundamental to our sense of self. Have you ever witnessed or experienced a moment where someone's autonomy was subtly or not so subtly taken away? We invite you to share your story or reflections in the comments, as these experiences can teach us all a great deal about empathy and respect. And if this in-depth analysis is providing you with value and a new perspective, please consider supporting our channel with a like and a subscription. It helps us continue to create meaningful content. 3. The fear of fading into irrelevance. The loss of purpose. There is a distinct fear that stalks the later years, which is different from the fear of being forgotten by loved ones. It is a more internal, existential dread. The fear of losing one's purpose, of fading into irrelevance. It is the quiet, nagging question, does my life still have meaning? Do I still have a role to play in this world? After a lifetime defined by active contribution as a parent, a professional, a volunteer, a creator, the transition into a life with less structured responsibility can leave a profound void. This isn't about ego or a need for the spotlight. It's about a fundamental human need to have a reason to get out of bed in the morning, a sense that one's existence makes a positive difference, however small. The roles that once defined you have shifted dramatically. You've gone from mom or dad, the ultimate authority and caregiver, to grandma or grandpa, a beloved but often more peripheral figure. You've gone from the manager, the teacher, or the expert to the retiree. If these transitions are not consciously navigated, they can feel less like a well-earned rest and more like being put on a shelf. The world, it seems, continues to spin at its frantic pace, and you feel as if you are watching it from behind a window, no longer a part of the action. Let's imagine a woman named Margaret, an 82-year-old who spent 40 years as a high school history teacher. Her days were a whirlwind of activity, crafting lesson plans, grading papers, mentoring struggling students, managing a classroom of 30 vibrant, challenging teenagers. Her purpose was clear, tangible, and deeply rewarding. Now, her days are quiet. Her primary organizational task has shifted from managing a curriculum to managing her weekly pillbox. While she loves her family dearly, she feels a pang of something akin to grief when she reflects on her past. Her internal monologue might sound something like this: "I used to shape young minds. I used to be someone people came to for answers. Now, who am I? What am I for?" This feeling of obsolescence is a quiet but heavy burden. This fear is exacerbated by a modern culture that is often obsessed with doing over being. We are conditioned from a young age to tie our identity and self-worth to our productivity, our job titles, and our tangible accomplishments. When the primary doing phase of life concludes, it can trigger an identity crisis. The silence that follows isn't necessarily peaceful. It can feel empty, a stark reminder of what used to be. The danger is that this feeling of irrelevance can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, leading to withdrawal, apathy, and a decline in both mental and physical engagement with the world. However, the key to overcoming this fear lies in a powerful act of redefinition. The first step is to understand that purpose does not have to be tied to a profession or a formal role. It is about finding meaning, and meaning can be found everywhere. It is time to shift from a purpose of doing to a purpose of being. Being a repository of wisdom, a source of unconditional love, a patient listener. Your purpose can be found in mentorship, sharing a lifetime of experience with a younger person. It can be found in storytelling, becoming the keeper of the family's history and ensuring that the legacies of those who came before are not lost. It can be found in community involvement, even from home, by making phone calls to check on others or participating in online groups. Consider launching a legacy project. This could be a deeply fulfilling new purpose. You could meticulously organize old family photographs and write the stories behind them. You could compile a family recipe book, complete with anecdotes about who loved which dish and the occasions on which it was served. You could even use a simple recording app on a smartphone to create an oral history, sharing your memories and life lessons for generations to come. On a smaller scale, you can find micro-purposes that infuse each day with meaning, tending to a houseplant and watching it thrive, diligently following the news to stay informed and engaged with the world, or making it your mission to learn one new thing each day. Your chapter isn't over. It's just that the theme has shifted from ambition to wisdom, from accumulation to distribution. You are not a has-been, you are a have-become. This transition from a life of active doing to a life of profound being is one of the most significant spiritual tasks of aging. If you or someone you know has discovered a new, meaningful sense of purpose in later life, we would be so inspired to hear about it. Your story could be the spark that ignites a new passion for someone else. Please comment with the number 3 below to let us know that this point about redefining purpose has resonated with you. 4. The fear of being forgotten. The silence of an unanswered call. While the fear of losing purpose is an internal struggle with meaning, there is a related but distinctly different fear that is external and relational. The fear of being forgotten, of being left behind by the ceaseless march of life. This one doesn't always shout, it whispers in the quietest moments. It echoes in the pause after the phone doesn't ring on a Tuesday afternoon. It settles in the hollow feeling when a holiday passes and you realize no one thought to ask about your plans. It's the subtle, painful calculus of counting the days between visits. The question that haunts the heart is, will they forget me? Am I already fading from their world? For many seniors past 80, this fear doesn't spring from ego or a demand for attention. It springs from love. You have spent a lifetime building a world of connection. You were the one who remembered birthdays, anniversaries, and favorite meals. You were the keeper of the family's emotional calendar. And so, when others forget, especially those you hold dearest in your heart, it feels like more than a simple oversight. Each missed call, each forgotten detail can feel like a small erasure, as if a little piece of your place in the world has just vanished. Let's revisit the women from the original story, Joyce and Eleanor, and imagine their experiences more fully. Joyce, at 82, decided not to decorate for Christmas for the first time in over 50 years. When she said, "No one's coming anyway, I'll just keep the lights off," it was with a soft, resigned smile. But behind that smile was a heart still hoping, still yearning for someone to prove her wrong, for the sound of unexpected footsteps on her porch. Then there is Eleanor, also in her early 80s, who so poignantly described her feeling as being like a photograph on a shelf. Still there, but no one really looks anymore. That single sentence captures the essence of this fear. It's not about being unloved, but about becoming invisible in plain sight, a cherished relic of the past rather than a vital part of the present. The pain of being forgotten and the social isolation that it breeds are not just emotional burdens, they have profound, scientifically documented effects on the body. A wealth of research demonstrates that chronic loneliness and social isolation significantly increase the risk of cognitive decline, dementia, heart disease, stroke, and even premature mortality. The body, in its intricate wisdom, listens when the spirit feels invisible. The stress of perceived abandonment takes a physical toll, weakening the very systems that sustain life. But here is what is so often overlooked. You do not have to be a passive recipient in the dynamics of connection. You do not have to wait by the phone hoping for others to remember you. You can take gentle, loving action to remind them, and in doing so, remind yourself of your central place in their lives. The most potent remedy for this fear is to shift from being a receiver of connection to an initiator of it. Instead of waiting for the call, make the call. Instead of waiting for the invitation, extend one. Suggest a regular weekly video chat with grandchildren who live far away. Seeing their faces can be a powerful antidote to loneliness. Furthermore, change the nature of the conversation. Instead of the rote, "How are you? I'm fine" exchange, be the one who asks deeper questions. Be a storyteller. Start a conversation with, "That reminds me of the time when," or "I was just thinking today about my first car. Let me tell you about it." When you share your stories, your memories, your recipes, your wisdom, you are actively speaking your name back into the world. You are not making a plea for attention, but offering a gift of presence. And don't limit your outreach just to family. Reach out to neighbors, old friends you've lost touch with, or members of a former church or community group. You would be astonished at how many other people are sitting in their own quiet rooms, waiting and hoping that someone will remember them too. When you reach out, you don't just stop yourself from being forgotten, you help someone else feel remembered. The pain of feeling forgotten while you are still here is immense, a silent grief that many carry alone. If you have a strategy for staying connected or for helping a loved one stay connected that has worked, please share it in the comments below. Let's use this space to build a powerful resource of ideas for each other. And please, let us know this is a significant concern by commenting with the number 4 if this fear is one you have thought about deeply. 5. The fear of losing dignity, the last bastion of the self. We arrive now at what may be the most profound and visceral fear of all, the one that often underpins the others, the fear of losing one's dignity. This is the fear of being stripped of the fundamental self-respect that makes life bearable, especially in moments of vulnerability. The loss of dignity is rarely a single dramatic event. It is a slow, quiet erosion, happening in a series of small, humbling moments that chip away at a person's sense of self. It's needing help to button a shirt you've buttoned 10,000 times before. It's having someone cut your food for you in a restaurant, making you feel like a child. It's being spoken to in a syrupy, high-pitched voice reserved for toddlers. It's having a caregiver perform a personal task like bathing with an air of impatient efficiency, without making eye contact or speaking to you as a person. Each of these moments, however small, can leave behind a residue of frustration, shame, and a deep, unspoken sadness. Dignity isn't about pride or vanity. It's about having a measure of control over how you live, how you are perceived, and, most critically, how you are cared for. It is the core of our humanity. When that control begins to slip away, many seniors do not speak up. They may fear being seen as difficult or ungrateful. They don't want to be a burden, fear number one, and they don't want to be perceived as complaining. So they suffer these small indignities in silence. I think of Henry, the 84-year-old man who told me, "I would rather fall trying to get something from the shelf myself than have to sit there and wait for someone to get it for me." While I admired his fierce spirit of independence, I also heard the deep pain underneath that statement. His declaration wasn't just about self-reliance. It was a desperate attempt to hold on to a piece of his identity. For him, the risk of a physical fall was less frightening than the certainty of a fall from grace in his own eyes. Asking for help shouldn't feel like surrendering a piece of your soul, but for many, it does. The real danger here is not just physical. It is profoundly emotional and psychological. When you feel that your needs are being ignored, your preferences are brushed aside, or your personal space is violated, it sends a powerful message to your brain. You don't matter in the way you used to. Your desires are secondary. When that message is repeated day after day, it can sink deep into one's being, leading to depression, social withdrawal, and even a measurable decline in physical health. The will to live is intimately tied to the feeling of being worthy of life. But dignity is not something that is simply given or taken away by others. It can be protected, nurtured, and even rebuilt when we are intentional about it. It starts by setting clear, respectful boundaries. Speak up about your routines, your likes, and your dislikes. Whether it's how you want your morning coffee prepared, when you prefer to rest, or that you wish to be spoken to directly during medical appointments, these small assertions are anchors of identity. Involve yourself assertively in every decision that affects your life. Your voice matters more than ever. You have earned the right to be the primary author of your own care plan. Families and caregivers, too, must be gently but firmly reminded that caring does not mean controlling. The highest form of care is one that preserves and honors the dignity of the person being cared for, not one that erases it in the name of efficiency. This means asking before acting, offering choices instead of making assumptions, and always speaking to the person with the respect due to someone who has lived 8 decades on this earth. Most importantly, dignity begins within. Take pride in what you can do, no matter how small it may seem to others. Whether it's meticulously folding your laundry, reading a chapter of a book, sharing a piece of wisdom with a grandchild, or simply sitting in the sun with a quiet mind, these things carry immense worth. Aging may change what our bodies can do, but it should never be allowed to change who we are at our core. You are still you. You are still wise, still worthy, still whole. Let's hold that truth close, because in a world that so often rushes past its elders, the quiet, unshakable strength of human dignity is the most powerful force of all. This preservation of dignity is perhaps the most crucial task we've discussed. If you agree with its profound importance, please show your support by commenting with the number 5 below. Your interaction is a signal that this message matters, and it helps our community grow. If you've stayed with us through this entire deep analysis, we thank you for your time and focus. Please consider hitting the notification bell so you won't miss our future discussions on life's most meaningful topics. Growing old, we discover, comes with far more than just gray hair and slower steps. It brings a new emotional landscape, one marked by quiet fears that often stay hidden behind polite smiles and stoic nods. But just because we do not always speak of them does not mean they do not exert a powerful influence over our lives. These 5 fears we've explored, the fear of becoming a burden, of losing control, of fading into irrelevance, of being forgotten, and of losing dignity, are not signs of weakness. They are, in fact, powerful testaments to our enduring humanity. They are reminders that we are still feeling, still hoping, still loving, and still growing. Here is the ultimate truth that no one tells you enough. Reaching 80 or 90 does not mean you have stopped becoming. The journey of self-discovery does not have an expiration date. You are still allowed to ask for more from life, more respect, more connection, more understanding, more joy. In fact, after a lifetime of contribution, you more than deserve it. So do not be afraid to name what you feel. Voicing your fears and needs is not complaining. It is an act of profound honesty. And when you are honest, you give others the precious opportunity to love you better. You remind your family and the world that you are still here, still sharp, still kind, still funny, and still filled with stories that matter. You have spent your life giving, raising children, building communities, working hard, and showing up for others. Now is the time to honor yourself with that same fierce and tender energy. Let this discussion be a small encouragement for that journey inward. You are not alone in your fears, and more importantly, you are not powerless in facing them. Each fear is an invitation to communicate more openly, to redefine your purpose, to initiate connection, and to claim your own unassailable dignity. After all this analysis, we turn the final question to you. What is the single most important lesson or insight you are taking away from our conversation today? Please let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your wisdom enriches our entire community and gives us the motivation and encouragement to continue. If you found this video helpful and believe in its message, please support our work by hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for your time, your attention, and for being part of this important conversation. Be kind to yourself, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.